Hey guys, another video for our Buying a House in Japan playlist. So one of our patrons asked what was happening with the piping situation. So about to show you what happened. We'd had a quote for $5,000 to re-pipe the house because we had to find a different route because of the activities that were going on next door, the demolition and the new buildings. So we got to run a pipe from there out towards the street. So the original idea was a bit more complicated and it was going to be about 5,000. They came up with this alternate idea, which we didn't think would work, but quoted $4,000 for it. So that's the water in. That's the pipe coming in. So I actually noticed that and said, look out, we suspect that's underneath that concrete there. And he went, oh, it'll be okay, it'll be okay. So we'll come back to that later. So we'd been told by another plumber who actually used a surveying tool that you couldn't run from here to the street because it was a slight uphill slope and it wasn't possible. However, these guys insisted that they had it right, and we said, okay, well, if you've got it wrong and it can't run that way, what do you, is the fixing it going to be at your expense? And they said yes. So all right, go for it. So that's a big saw, that thing that's cutting through the concrete. And our patron asked if we looked into other alternatives, if we could have avoided this cost and put the cost on the people who own the place next door that were developing the house next door. And we exhausted all avenues. No, we couldn't do that, unfortunately. So that's the first step. They ran 2 cuts. Now, we didn't realize they were going to do this, but what they actually did is they ran 1 cut actually along the boundary, which we hadn't thought of. But after they did it, we realized that was actually a pretty good idea for a couple of reasons. One is, so that white line on the right there, that's the line that our unskilled labourer had actually done between the surveying points. So that line on the right there is actually our boundary, and the cut, you can see they've put a cut on that line and another cut on the left there, and a lot wider than we thought too. So there's a bit of an advantage to this. One advantage is we're going to have some new concrete right up to our boundary. That was one advantage. And I'll show you another advantage a little bit later on that we realised after the hole was dug. So they cut that last cut they had to actually do with a small saw by hand because it was too tricky. And they were looking out for that incoming water pipe, fortunately. So talk about faffing, guys. They had about 5 dudes working, 1 guy watching, and it went on and on and on. They were faffing around, and they kept coming to us. They kept coming and banging, Suma-san, and they'd call out, and we'd go, what is it? And we're about to do this. Oh, okay then. Most of what they were doing was just telling us stuff. They weren't really... Occasionally it was a question we had to answer, but most of it was, we're about to do this. Now we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And okay, all right, get on with it. One guy kept coming and just standing in front of the door, looking at the house, which was a bit creepy. I kept going outside. What is it? Oh, just, yes, wanted to tell you it's all going well. Yeah, all right, get back into it. Hurry up, get on with it. They faff around, they really do. It takes a lot of patience, guys. If you find yourself in Japan in a situation like this, you've got to be as patient as possible. So there's their trench. And yeah, they found the water pipe. He said at the time, oh no, I think it goes a different direction, he said. And I'd been pretty confident it didn't. I was pretty confident it went straight across where his trench was going to be. And as it turned out, yeah, it did. So, and there's the old pipe that used to go next door. And the other little pipe you can see, there's the water pipe running from the meter to the actual house itself. So that had to be preserved as well, of course. So it was no big deal, really, the damaged pipe. That was their thing. That was on them. So they fixed that. We just had to go without water for half an hour. So it's no big deal. In fairness to them, they did a good job. There was a lot of faffing, a lot of unnecessarily explanation and faffing around, but they did a good job. So this is where they're running to up here. So for those who are interested in the technicality of it, it's actually there's actually a pipe that runs from the septic tank out to the street that just takes away grey water. So what they've done is they've brought the pipe up here and connected into there. So it connects into the grey water that goes out into the storm water drain and goes off down the street, which is the standard in Japan for grey water. So it's water from the bath and the kitchen, not from the toilet, of course. That's going into the septic tank. So they pretty well smashed up. The concrete there was pretty well badly damaged by the roots from the trees next door. When they removed those trees, they cracked up that concrete. So their machinery sort of made it a bit worse. So they got to this point, and then they got what we call in Australia a whacker packer. I don't know what you guys call it, but it's a machine that just bounces up and down basically and compacts. So look, saw an opportunity here. It's on the boundary. Okay, so grabbed a couple of pieces of pipe from the workshop, some old broken pieces of pipe, and stuck them in the ground. Put a piece of wood on top of them and hammered them into the ground, and said to them, please leave these pipes there. Might want to make a hole later on. So it was just spontaneous. The concrete was on the way. These guys were getting ready to pour concrete and suddenly had this idea, hey. So didn't really plan it too much, measured a little bit, show you later on why, but just decided that we might want to put a couple of posts there later. So I just hammered those 2 pipes in, and then 5 minutes later the concrete truck turned up. So just suddenly recognised that there could be an opportunity if we can have a couple of holes there. We want to be able to still drive in both sides of that bamboo you can see there. But we don't know what they're doing next door yet, but it might be useful to have some sort of barrier up there, some sort of fence, or just some sort of, something that just blocks the view. You know, privacy, some sort of privacy fence or some sort of something. So now we're in this situation here where the concrete's laid and we've got our 2 pipes, see? So the big pipes, weren't really sure of the plan. We knew that if we put it in the ground there, it wasn't going to be perfectly vertical. So just used a big pipe. And we have a plan. After the concrete dries, we actually do have a plan for those pipes. Sort of thing. Usually before doing projects like this, we think about them a lot, come up with a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, and finally run with a plan D usually. So anyway, the water problem solved, the sewer problem solved, the water problem solved for now, and the next project in this part of the garden is going to be those 2 pipes there. We have to do something with that. That'll be a coming video. Anyway, that was that. $4,000 later. More videos coming soon.